Hey, how's it going, everybody? Today we're jumping into Revelation chapter 6. Let me fix this green screen here because I remember I checked yesterday's stream and it was a bit messed up. Let me fix that up and then we'll dive into what we're reading. That's actually horrible. Is that okay? I think that is kind of okay. Let me make sure I'm not lagging here with the audio. That's decent. That's decent. All right, we'll keep it like that for now. Let me just check this one here real quick. Yeah, this one is better. All right. We'll keep that for now. So today we're jumping into Revelation chapter 6. Let me get that up on screen. All right, there we go. So yesterday we were talking about the scroll, the Lamb being worthy to take the scroll. And so now we are seeing the continuation of that, the opening of the scroll. So what is this? What are these different seals on the scroll? Let's figure out. There's 7 seals.
Now I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals.
My headphones aren't plugged in. Give me one sec. There we go.
Now I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures saying with a voice like thunder,
"Come and see."
And I looked, and
cool
behold,
effects.
a white horse. He who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer.
And I looked, and behold, a white horse. And he who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering to conquer. The first seal is the conqueror. Do we know who this conqueror is? Is he a good guy or a bad guy? Now I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures saying with a voice like thunder. And the 4 living creatures, remember we talked about them? They had 6 wings. They had eyes in front and back of them. We had one that had the face of a lion, one that had the face of a calf, one that had the face of a man, and one that had the face of an eagle, if I remember correctly. So sort of different than the living creatures we saw in Ezekiel, but because each living creature in Ezekiel had all 4 of those faces. So one of them said, "Come and see," and I looked. And behold, a white horse, who sat on it had a bow, like a bow and arrow, and a crown was given to him. We talked about this yesterday, where angels don't have crowns. So is this like a heavenly crown? So is this a good guy in heaven, from heaven, like a saint? Maybe one of the elders, the 24 elders we saw? And he went out conquering to conquer. Okay, let's see what my Bible's got to say about this. This section details the opening of the 7 seals on the scroll by the Lamb who was found worthy. The scroll cannot be opened and read until all the seals have been broken. So not only is there information that's important within the scroll, each individual seal is symbolic on its own accord, which is real interesting. I'm curious as to how the contents of the scroll is going to correlate with the different seals. The scroll cannot be opened and read until all the seals have been broken. Therefore, the narrative of verse 1 of chapter 6, verse 1 to chapter 8, verse 1 apparently represents events prior to the outpouring of God's judgment contained in the scroll. Okay, so apparently it represents events prior to the outpouring of God's judgment contained in the scroll, which makes sense because removing the seals takes place prior to reading the scroll. So one would assume that the whatever each seal symbolizes takes place chronologically, right? First, whatever the first seal symbolizes, that occurs. Whatever the second seal symbolizes, that occurs next. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and then after all the seals, you read what's in the scroll, and then that occurs at the end. That's what one can assume. The unsealing of the scroll follows the general pattern of the signs called the beginning of sorrows in the Olivet Discourse. Okay, that's in Matthew 24. So, we can look at that. Some think that a number of these events have already taken place or will take place before the tribulation. Begins. Others think this section describes the beginning of the tribulation period. Okay, now we're getting into the white horse. Because the first rider is on a white horse and is conquering, some take it to be Christ. If so, his conquest is considerably delayed. Other widely held views are that this is the Antichrist, or a spirit of conquest and delusion. The bow indicates that the rider is a warrior. The crown suggests that he is a ruler. I can see why some would think that it's Christ because of the white horse. But it says that he's late. Why is he late? If so, his full conquest is considerably late. Considerably delayed, and then it cites chapter 19 and 20. So I guess once we get to chapter 19 verse 11, we'll know what it's talking about. But for now, I want to look at Matthew 24, the Olivet Discourse, the beginning of sorrows. Twenty-four 8, I believe it said. And all these are the beginning of sorrows. And Jesus said to them, "Take heed that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Christ,' and will deceive many. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled. And for all these things must come to pass." My commentary is saying, hey, so all these different seals have to come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. That's interesting. The beginning of sorrows. Okay. Let me look up another commentary and let's see what people think about who this conqueror is. Each seal is associated with a living creature who called out, "Come," to each horseman. Do we know that? I mean, there's 4 living creatures and 7 seals. Behold a white horse. If one were to take their interpretive clues, more from cowboy movies than from the Bible, it would be easy to believe the rider on the white horse is Jesus. Jesus does return on a white horse in Revelation 19. So that's why they're saying it's Jesus, because he does return on a white horse. But this is a satanic dictator who imitates Jesus. Okay, how do we know that? He rules, a white crown is given. One sec. He rules with a bow, not a sword, and he exercises dominion over earth. Yeah, is there any symbolism to the bow? He exercised dominion over the earth. He went out conquering and to conquer. Yeah, is there any symbolism? A long-range weapon, meaning his authority is far spread. But the results of his rule, as described in the following verses, show clearly that this is not the reign of Jesus. Okay, we'll keep reading. The whole context and character of these seals absolutely forbid our thinking of this rider being the Lord Jesus, as so many affirm. His reign shall not bring war, famine, and strife in its train. Here we reach an interpretive crossroads of the book of Revelation. You can tell much about how a person understands this book and God's prophetic plan by seeing how they understand this first rider. Those who think Revelation is mostly a book of history believe this rider is Jesus, the apostles, or the Roman emperors. Those who believe that this is a prophetic passage yet to be fulfilled often account this rider to be the Antichrist. Not necessarily. As we saw in my Bible, some who believe that this is yet to come to pass, that it is a prophetic message, believe that it could be Jesus as well. As this commentary also said, due to the white horse here in Revelation 19. So we'll keep going. I don't want to read too much of somebody else's opinion. Let's read and find out for ourselves.
When he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature saying,
Come and see.
Another horse, fiery red, went out.
Okay, so that's probably why the commentary said that the seals correspond to a living creature. I wonder how it's going to work out now, because there's only 4 living creatures and 7 seals. Because it says 1 living seal and then now a second, so a different one.
And see.
Another horse, fiery red, went out.
So we got a
And it
white
was
horse,
granted
a red
to the one
horse.
who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another. And there was given to him a great sword.
So we got a bow and we got a great sword. And it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, to remove peace, to instill conflict, and that people should kill one another. And there was given to him a great sword. So this guy is conquering, and this guy is creating conflict. I can imagine this guy conquering and then this guy creating conflict while this guy continues to conquer, because a people divided is much easier to conquer. So these two are probably working together. That's what I would imagine.
When he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say,
Come and see.
So I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures.
Scales, like judgment. You know, weighing scales. Not dragon scales.
Saying,
A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine.
Okay. Come and see. Look. So I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures saying, so it could be one of the 4 living creatures, or it could be another voice. A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine. Okay, is that an inflated price? So we got this guy conquering. Well, let's see. Let's make sure. Okay, let's take a look at the red horse. Actually, this rider didn't need to bring war and destruction. All he needed to do was take the peace from the earth. Once this peace, God's gift to man, was taken, men quickly rush in with war and destruction. Our modern age is marked by conflict, war and conflict. Since World War II, there have been more than 150 wars of some kind in this world. And at any given time, there may be some 36 armed conflicts taking thousands of lives yearly. The nations of the world often spend more than $1 trillion on military expenditures a year. We may be experiencing that seal. A black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. The scales symbolized the need to carefully measure and ration food. These prices are about 12 times higher than normal. Okay, so inflation right there, boom. It means that it would cost a day's wage to buy the ingredients for a loaf of bread. This describes a time of famine when life will be reduced to the barest necessities. I'm curious, those who believe that Jesus has already come, can they correlate these events with something that happened in the past? I'm curious about that. All prior to when they think Jesus came? I'm curious. We often see great famine in the world today, yet fewer people suffer from hunger today than 100 years ago. However, understanding the world's precarious ecological balance, it would not take much to plunge many into the kind of scarcity and iniquity mentioned here. So maybe we're not in this phase yet. Do not harm the oil and the wine, yet the nicer things will be available for those who can afford them. People against people, removing the peace, divisions, class systems, a people divided, a conqueror taking advantage of that. You're seeing how these things flow together. There will still be the oil and the wine. There will still be the oil and the wine that should not be harmed. It's still going to be there. Just you can't touch it.
When he opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature saying,
Come and see.
So I looked, and behold, a pale horse.
A pale horse. So not a white horse, but a pale horse. Pale horse. I mean, you would imagine it to be white, right? What does a pale horse mean? A pale horse, like a lifeless horse. Okay, maybe not a zombie horse, but maybe you can see the vitality in something, right? And this one didn't have that. Maybe it looked sickly. That could be the case.
And the name of him who sat on it was Death. And
Hades
Hades followed with him. And power was given to them.
So, this figure named Death and Hades followed. Hades is hell. So Death was bringing Hades with him. My Bible gives a little explanation of Hades. The Greek term means the place of the unseen. It designates the invisible world of the dead, as does the Hebrew word Sheol. All people who die go to Hades because all pass from the visible world into the invisible. the association. I don't know if Sheol means that. I think Sheol can mean hell, but it can also mean just under the earth. All people who die go to Hades because all pass from the visible world to the invisible. The association between death and Hades is therefore a natural one. Unfortunately, this word has often been associated with hell, a place for eternal punishment. But there is a different Greek word for hell. It is called Gehenna. We cannot avoid Hades, but we can avoid hell. Okay. By believing in Jesus and receiving eternal life. Okay, so Sheol and Hades are different than hell and Gehenna. Okay, let's look up this. We'll look up a commentary of this, and then let's see if they say anything. This last writer shows that there will be a tremendous death toll from the dictatorship, war, famine, and other calamities described by the previous three horsemen. Our modern age has seen hundreds of millions killed by dictators, war, and famine. Yet all that will pale in comparison to the death toll coming in the wake of this ultimate dictator. No wonder Jesus said of this time, "For then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, nor known, nor ever shall be." Power was given to the horsemen and given by God. Do we know that? Though all hell breaks loose on earth, God is very much in control. He still holds the scroll and opens the seals.
Over a fourth of the earth, to kill with sword, with
Power is
hunger,
given to them
with
over
death,
a fourth of the earth.
given to them over a fourth of the earth,
That's a lot.
to kill with sword, with hunger, with death, and by the beasts of the earth.
Okay, so they're using violence, hunger, famine, death, and by the beasts of the earth to kill a fourth of the earth. Sheol, Hades, different terms in the Bible, the different terms used in the Bible for heaven and hell, Sheol, Hades, Gehenna, the lake of fire, paradise, and Abraham's bosom, are the subject of much debate and can be confusing. My Bible said hell and Sheol, Hades are similar. Gehenna is hell, and it's not the same thing as Hades. The word paradise is used as a synonym for heaven. Okay, we'll skip the paradise bit. Okay. In the Hebrew scriptures, the word used to describe the realm of the dead is Sheol. It simply means the place of the dead, or the place of departed souls and spirits. My Bible says it's the place of the unseen. That's what Hades means, and apparently Hades means Sheol. The New Testament Greek equivalent to Sheol is Hades, which is also a general reference to the place of the dead. The Greek word Gehenna is used in the New Testament for hell, and is derived from the Hebrew word Hinnom. Okay, so they're saying Hinnom and Sheol are two different things. Other passages in the New Testament indicated that Sheol/Hades is a temporary place where souls are kept as they wait the final resurrection. So like purgatory. The souls of the righteous at death go directly into the presence of God. The part of Sheol called heaven, paradise, or Abraham's bosom. I don't remember anything like that. And he said to him, "Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." Yes, we are of good courage, and we should rather be away from the body and at home with the Lord. Okay, in what context was that in? So we are confident knowing that while we are at home in the body, we are absent from the Lord. For we walk by faith, not by sight. We are confident, yes, well pleased rather to be absent from the body and to be present with the Lord. I thought this was, Paul talked about the nature of the natural and the spiritual. I think that's what he was talking about. For we know that if our earthly house, this tent, is destroyed, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. For in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed with our habitation, which is from heaven. If indeed, having been clothed, we shall not be found naked. For we who are in this tent groan, being burdened, not because we want to be unclothed, but further clothed, that mortality may be swallowed up in life. Now he who has prepared us for this very thing is God, and who also has given us the Spirit as a guarantee. So we are always confident, knowing that while we are at home in the body, we are absent from the Lord. For we walk by faith, not by sight. We are confident, yes, well pleased, rather to be absent from the body and to be present in the Lord. Okay, I just don't see how that works with this fully. Let's see this. I'm hard pressed between the two. My desire is to depart and be with Christ, for that is far better. I guess you're saying when you die, you go to heaven. See, I've always believed you die, you're dead. That's it. And then you're resurrected in the end, the end times. And that's when we go to heaven. I'd never believed in any purgatory or anything like that. What do you guys think about that? There's another topic we can look into. The idea of purgatory. Or apparently a place in Sheol called heaven. Or paradise.
By the beasts of the earth.
I was tempted to look further into it, but I know this is gonna take time, and that could be a whole other video. So we'll look into the paradise within Sheol, or purgatory, or whether when you die, what happens when you die, those type of questions. We could do multiple videos on that.
Earth. When he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying,
How long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth?
Then a white...
Very similar to what was said in Psalms. But it makes sense, the cry of the martyrs. How many people died in the name of Christianity, name of God?
O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth.
Then a white robe was given to each of them, and it was said to them that they should rest a little while longer, until both the number of their fellow servants and their brethren, who would be killed as they were, was completed. I looked when he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth.
Let me pause it here real quick, because I was highlighting. Then a white robe was given to each of them, and it was said to them that they should rest a little while longer until both the number of their fellow servants and brethren who would be killed as they were was completed. Wow. How long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? Then a white robe was given to each of them. Just a little longer. More have to be killed. That's... Let me see what this commentary had to say about that. These souls were under the altar emphasizes that their lifeblood was poured out as an offering to God. The idea is drawn from Leviticus 4, and he shall pour the remaining blood at the base of the altar of the burnt offering. I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain, because they died for God. They were, right? So that's why the martyr, idea of the martyr is there. It is probably best to see this as the cry of all martyrs for God's truth, not merely believers persecuted by the coming world leader, the first horseman. These souls in heaven cried out for vengeance. We don't know where they were. We usually don't think of God's people crying out for vengeance. I mean, we do. We've seen it. We've seen them do that multiple times. But here they made their crying to God and leave the matter with him. When God's people are persecuted, he will set it right. It isn't wrong for God's people to ask him to do what he promised to do. In this way, the blood of Abel cried out from the ground for vengeance, as did the blood of the unavenged murders in the land of Israel. These saints were instructed to wait. This may mean that they should wait until all God's appointed martyrs are killed. That's crazy. Or because the number of are supplied, the words the number of are supplied by the translator, not the text. It may mean that they wait until the character of the remaining martyrs on earth is perfected and complete. See, again, we go into translation here, and that changes the meaning completely. It is character, the way that one lives, that makes a martyr, not the way one dies.
Earthquake. Number of their fellow servants and their brethren who would be killed as they were was completed. I looked when he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth, as a fig tree drops its late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind. Then the sky receded as a scroll when it is rolled up.
So I looked when he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood. We've seen red moons. We've seen eclipses. And the stars of heaven fell to the earth. Could that be a meteor shower? Or did stars actually fall? And as you know, stars are pretty giant. Them falling to the earth wouldn't make any sense. But as we looked yesterday at the Hebrew, their whole worldview, their cosmology, whereas right, the stars are right in here, right? So in their mind, stars falling to the earth makes sense. You know what I mean?
Tree drops its late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind.
As a fig tree drops its late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind. So that's how these stars were falling. Wow.
Then the sky receded as a scroll when it is rolled up.
And the sky receding as a scroll, same thing, right? The firmament would be, the sky, and that just rolls away, I'm assuming. I'm not entirely sure.
It as a scroll when it is rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, every slave and every free man hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks of the mountains.
I don't know what it means by the sky receded like a scroll. The mighty men, that phrase, that reminds me of Genesis 6. Let me pull up this commentary here. Let's see what they got to say. So in the Bible, celestial disturbances are often connected with the coming of the Messiah. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Joel, Zephaniah, and Jesus himself all described such things. A passage from Zephaniah as an example. The great day of the Lord is near. It is near and hastens quickly. The noise of the day of the Lord is bitter. There the mighty men shall cry out. That day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of devastation and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, a day of trumpet and alarm against the fortified cities and against the high towers. Or as in Joel, the sun and the moon grow dark, and the stars diminish their brightness, for the day of the Lord is great and terrible. Who can endure it? Those who regard these events as history have to greatly spiritualize them. One example is Adam Clarke, who said this great earthquake was a most stupendous change in the civil and religious constitution of the world. If it refers to Constantine the Great, the change that was made by his conversion to Christianity might have very properly represented under the emblem of an earthquake. Okay, so the sun becoming black as sackcloth, and the moon becoming like blood, and the stars falling. It is best to regard these pictures as real but poetic. John did not use technically precise scientific language, but he simply described what he saw. Okay. The kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, every slave and every free man hid themselves. All people are equally brought low by God's wrath. So that social standing, the hierarchy we have, it's all going to crumble to the wayside. It's all going to fall apart, because next to God, we'll all be brought low. The judgment is all the more profound because it is the wrath of the Lamb.
Mighty men, every slave and every free man, hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks,
Fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand?
So they're calling for the mountains to just fall on them. Hide us away from the face of him. They can't bear to look at him. Whoa. Yeah, 7.
After these things I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth.
4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth. Every time I hear 4 winds, I think of Conan the Barbarian. I remember we talked about an explanation of the 4 winds, and I've seen pictures of what they thought the earth was, but the 4 corners, I think, right? Cosmology, 4 corners. The earth is a square. And the waters above, the sun, the moon, the floodgates, the waters below, and the pillars of the earth. So they're trying to make a very literal representation of what the earth looked like from the Bible. So maybe this is what they had imagined what the earth would look like, something like this. I don't know. I just find it interesting to see the world in the way they thought the world was. Because then when you do that, and then you read things like this, I don't know. Just try and imagine what they saw and what they thought. I wanted to look up the four winds, right? Wind is frequently used in the Bible as a metaphor of some spiritual truth. This holds true when the Bible refers to the four winds. The phrase four winds is used principally to describe the whole of the earth or heaven. The four winds encompass all directions of the four corners of the earth: north, south, east, and west. Different translations give different renderings. For example, in Zechariah, the four winds of heaven, but in the NIV, it's the four spirits of heaven. The discrepancy is understandable since the Hebrew word for wind can also mean spirit. Hebrews 1:7 says God makes his angels winds or spirits. Right? We've seen angels being used as spirits, or spirits being used as angels. It should be noted when the phrase four winds is mentioned in the Bible, it usually is in reference to some remarkable, unusual, or devastating effect. These events are being reported by some of the Lord's prophets, more often in the form of a vision. Here, Revelation 7:1, or one example of the phrase being used in the context of judgment. I saw four angels standing at the four corners of the earth, holding back the four winds of the earth to prevent any wind from blowing on the land or on the sea. So in all directions, north, south, east, west. It seems like they're talking about literal winds here. Or on any tree. This use of the four winds is different than other references because the winds are being held back rather than being sent forth. The holding back of the four winds represent the whole theme of Revelation 7, which is a worshipful respite from the outpouring of God's judgment. The four winds that had previously represented destruction and affliction on the earth now serve as the most moving and hope-filled promise from God for the protection of his people. Do not harm the land or the sea or the trees until we put a seal on the foreheads of the servants of our God. And God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. This reminded me of immediately the 666 symbol. So there's going to be multiple seals. You're going to have the 666 and you're going to have God's seal. And I remember we talked about this earlier, that it is not a literal marking, physical marking. We'll look into that also as we dive more into Revelation.
Corners of the earth, holding the four winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, on the sea, or on any tree. Then I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the four angels to whom it was granted to harm the earth and the sea.
Do not harm the earth, the sea, or the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads.
And I heard the number of those who were sealed. 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel were sealed. Of the tribe of Judah, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Reuben, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Gad, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Asher, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Naphtali, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Manasseh, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Simeon.
See, I don't know why I always thought the 144,000 was the last generation or the remnant or whatever, you know? But no, that's not. This is literally, it's broken down into different tribes.
Was sealed. Of the tribe of Asher, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Naphtali, 12,000 were sealed.
Because I'm not from the tribe. I'm not from any one of these tribes, or unless we're talking symbolically. But then, which tribe would I be? We could symbolically say that all Christians are of the tribe of are children of Israel, right? But we're specifically going into the tribe of Judah, Reuben, Gad, Asher, Naphtali, Manasseh, and all that, right? So, I'm not entirely sure what is being said here. We'll finish through this and then we'll pull up a comment.
Of the tribe of Asher, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Naphtali, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Manasseh, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Simeon, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Levi, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Issachar, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Zebulun, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Joseph, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Benjamin, 12,000 were sealed.
Okay. Let's... The phrase four corners of the earth is an ancient and sometimes modern equivalent to the idea of the 4 points on the compass. The idea of these four angels is that these angels affect the entire earth. These winds were a destructive force of God's judgment, as they often are in the Old Testament, and they're being held back. Another angel had a seal, and he sealed the people of God. In the ancient world, such seals were familiar. A king or a property owner could use a seal to show ownership or authenticity. Okay. So he's making a mark. These are my people. You can't touch them. Don't let out the devastating forces of the four winds until I've set aside my people. These are the people that are going to be saved. Do not harm the earth, the sea, or the trees till we have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads. These servants of God will receive a protective seal on their forehead containing God's name in some manner. Well, we don't know if it's God's name, right? Oh, well, Revelation 14 seems like we're going to get to that. In Ezekiel 9:4, a similar protective seal was given to the righteous before Jerusalem was judged. And the Lord said to him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and put a mark on the foreheads of the men who sigh and cry over all the abominations that are done within it. We are not told what exactly their service is, but the 144,000 are sealed for a specific and unique purpose. However, the general idea of being sealed is not limited to them. Jesus was sealed. God the Father has set a seal on him. Okay, I see what they're saying, but we're talking about this specific seal here in this context. And then it looks like it's going through all the different times the words people have been sealed. This is their general identification. 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel were sealed. They are all the tribes of the children of Israel. Ethnically, they are Jewish, and there are 144,000 of these chosen ones. But see, I thought all that was done away with. After Jesus came, it's not just Jewish. It's not just the genealogical descendants of Israel. It's past that now. We're not looking at genealogy. We're looking at all those who have accepted God as children of Israel. But then we're specifically stating the tribes here. What do you guys think about that? I'm curious as to what Paul would say. This is their specific identification. The 144,000 are divided among the 12 tribes of Israel. Though only God may know their tribal ancestry, they are 12,000 from each tribe. Of the tribe in this listing of the tribes, the tribe of Dan is left out. Some think this is because Dan is a tribe of the Antichrist, based on 1137. Daniel 11:37, he shall regard neither the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall exalt himself above them all. And Jeremiah 8:16, the snorting of his horses was heard from Dan. The whole land trembled at the sound of the neighing of his strong ones, for they have come and devoured the land and all that is in it, the city and those who dwell in it. What was the context of this? More of you shall say to them. Okay, this is Jeremiah speaking of the coming judgment in the Old Testament. Okay, yeah, so I don't see the tie here. This may or may not be the case, but without a doubt, Dan was the tribe that introduced idolatry into the nation of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the pathway, a viper by the path, that bites the horse's heel, so that its rider shall fall backward. Then the children of Dan set up for themselves the carved image, and Jonathan the son of Gershom, the son of Manasseh, and his sons were priests to the tribe of Dan until the day of the captivity of the land. There is a wonderful redemption for the tribe of Dan. Dan is the first tribe listed in Ezekiel's millennial roll call for the tribes. Of the tribe of... Okay, so this is also interesting in the way that the tribe of Ephraim is referred to, but only indirectly. The tribe of Joseph is mentioned, but Joseph was represented by two tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh, right? His children. Since the tribe of Manasseh is mentioned by elimination, the tribe of Judah must mean, the tribe of Joseph must mean the tribe of Ephraim, who is listed but not by name. Perhaps Ephraim was slighted because the tribe of Ephraim was also associated with great idolatry. Okay. Could be. It is sometimes claimed that this list must be pretty symbolic because it is irregular. But what is a regular listing of the tribes? There are not less than 20 different ways of listing the tribes of Israel in the Old Testament, including one that omits the tribe of Dan in 1 Chronicles. Just because it is different doesn't mean it is fanciful symbolism. It is proper to regard each of these lists as legitimate and to consider that each specific variation serves a purpose, meaning to emphasize something. So who are the 144,000? Are we not included in that? Is it only those of Jewish heritage? Many different groups have claimed to be the 144,000. For example, Jehovah's Witness once said their entire group was, until they surpassed 144,000 in number. Now they say that the 144,000 are only a select group of witnesses who go to heaven. Most Bible scholars either regard the 144,000 as the church or as converted Jews, who are still identified as Israelites in some manner. It is an important issue. If they are a symbol of the church, then the church is definitely in the Great Tribulation, but sealed for the survival through the Great Tribulation. Some facts about the 144,000 from Revelation 7 and 14 give us insight regarding their identity. They are called the children of Israel. But that could be genealogically speaking, or in like naturally or spiritually, as Paul put it, from the actual physical bloodline, or because they have accepted God. So you and I could be a child of Israel without actually being a descendant. Their tribal affiliation is specific. They seem to be protected and triumphant through the period of God's wrath, meeting with Jesus at Mount Zion at his return. They are celibate. This is all Revelation 14. We'll get into that. They are the beginning of the great harvest, the greater harvest. So we're not the only ones who will be taken up into heaven. These are the first fruits, seems like. They are marked by integrity and faithfulness. Taken together, these facts make it difficult to say that the 144,000 are a symbolic picture of the church. Israel is a term never specifically applying to the church in the New Testament, and never by any Christian until AD 160. Their tribal affiliation is emphatic and known to God. Even if God only knows it, there is absolutely no reason to regard their tribal affiliation as symbolic, not literal. It is difficult to imagine the entire church surviving through the tribulation without martyrdom and remaining celibate through the period, something that was never required for the church as a whole. If the 144,000 are a symbol of the entire church, what greater harvest are they the beginning of? Yeah, okay, so it can't be a symbol for the entire church. It is best to see the 144,000 as specifically chosen Jewish people who come to faith in Jesus, protectively sealed throughout the tribulation as a sign. So then, but then there is favoritism then. We're still following the line of God's chosen people being the Jewish nation, and not those who believe in Him. So we're looking at the natural, not the spiritual. So I'm not sure if Paul would agree with this interpretation. They are the beginning harvest of the salvation of Israel. They are not a part of the church proper, for their repentance comes too late for that. They are a super addition to the church, a supplementary body, near and precious to Christ, but made up after the proper church has finished its course.
Of the tribe of Issachar, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe were sealed. Of the tribe of Benjamin, 12,000 were sealed. After these things I looked, and behold, a great multitude which no one could number, of all nations, tribes, peoples, and tongues, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes, with palm branches in their hands, and crying out with a loud voice,
Salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne and to the Lamb.
All the angels stood around the throne, and the elders and the 4 living creatures, and fell on their faces before the throne and worshipped God.
Amen. Blessing and glory and wisdom, thanksgiving and honor and power and might be to our God forever and ever. Amen.
Then one of the elders answered, saying to me,
Who
Elders,
are
the
these
24
arrayed
elders.
in white robes, and where did they come from?
And I said to him, Sir, you know. So he said to me,
These are the ones who come out of the great tribulation, and washed their robes, and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore, they are before the throne of God, and serve Him day and night in His temple. And He who sits on the
So is
throne
this all of
will
us?
dwell among them. They shall neither hunger any more, nor thirst any more. The sun shall not strike them, nor any heat. For the Lamb who is in the midst of the throne will shepherd them, and lead them to living fountains of waters. And God will wipe away every tear from their eyes.
So no more sorrow. That seems like heaven we're talking about. Standing before the throne and before the Lamb. Again, John saw everything in heaven in reference to the throne of God. This is a peculiar subject of their joy, that God has a throne, that He sits upon it, and that He ruleth over all things, and all things do His bidding. The central thought of heaven, then, is divine sovereignty. These robes remind us not only of the covering righteousness of Jesus, but also of the priestly service, the white robes. They are arrayed for holy service, and arrayed at once, for they wear white robes fitted for their priestly service. Yes, the palm branches remind us of the Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem. Palm branches were emblems of victory, celebration. All the angels and the elders and all the angels stood around the throne, and the elders and the 4 living creatures, and fell on their face before the throne and worshipped God, saying, Amen, blessing and glory and wisdom, thanksgiving and honor and power and might be to our God forever and ever. Then one of the elders saying to me, Who are these arrayed in the white robes, and where do they come from? And I said to him, Sir, you know. So he said to me, These are the ones who come out of the great tribulation, and washed their robes, made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Is he talking about the people in the white robes are the multitude? The vast multitude from every tribe and tongue and nation, and those rescued for God's kingdom in the period of the Great Tribulation. So this commentary thinks the same. It is important that John knew the identity of this great multitude, but he didn't know that he should ask. So one of the elders prompted him to ask. The great multitude are mentioned right after the 144,000. Many think they are, at least in part, due to the work of those 144,000 servants of God. Perhaps the 144,000 are evangelists who help reap his harvest, his huge harvest for the kingdom during the Great Tribulation. That would make sense also. Yeah, that would make sense. Because, Jesus took 12 disciples and sent them across the world to preach his ministry and reap the harvest, right? Or to sow the seeds, right? And so now he's taking 12 from each of the tribes to reap the harvest. I thought they said white and red robes, or might have misheard. Yeah, who are these arrayed in white robes? I thought it said red. It was arrayed. Okay, that's gonna be it for today. Tomorrow we'll jump into chapter 8 for the last and 7th seal. Let's see, look at the time. 1 hour for 2 chapters. I told you Revelation is going to take a while. And we're barely scratching the surface here. So, hope you guys found it really interesting. I definitely did. We're definitely going to be looking further into all of this. Doing separate videos, diving into it a whole lot deeper. So I got to go back, do some highlighting, and make some notes to what we can check into further. Because it's a lot to break down, a lot to look into, a lot of different interpretations, a lot of different schools of thought. So definitely needs some time to look into. But I thought this was really interesting. We got to see that progression through the 7 seals. Well, 6. We'll get the 7th. And the 144,000, still, that's a question. Who are the 144,000 exactly? We saw some ideas of who they could be. It can't be the full church, because then we talked about the multitude after the fact, right? So let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. What do you guys think about what we read today? Revelation 6 and 7. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for Revelation chapter 8. Take care. Bye-bye.